Okay, so you'll need like glow-in-the-dark yarn if you want your ghost to glow. If not, just use like a white yarn. But this is yarn that I believe my sister got off Amazon. They're pretty small skeins of yarn. I'm not even sure exactly how much is in one of these, and it doesn't really even say on the package. But I want to see if I can show you guys how it glows. So I'm going to shut off all my lights, and let's see if we can show you guys that it glows. You can kind of see that when the light's on it, it does kind of have a slight glow. I'm hoping you guys can just kind of see it. And if I take it away, it does glow a little bit. This has been kind of buried, so it didn't have the time to charge all day if I would have left it out in like sunlight or under a light. But I thought this was really cool to show you guys that it does slightly glow. Oops. Okay, so now first you're going to want your yarn. I'm not sure how much we're going to use. I'm assuming for the one ghost, we'll probably use about 1 to 2 of them. So if you plan on making a lot, you'll definitely need to look into more of this or see if there's any bigger skeins of this. The other thing you might want is, like I used, which was a Blacklight to kind of show it glowing. And of course your scissors. Your looming tool that you choose. This is a knitting board one that I got a while ago in a set. A row counter. This is one I used all the time. And then a loom. I picked out the smallest loom that I had that came in this set from Knitting Board. It came with just a couple, if I turn it over you'll be able to see better. It came with just the baby hat size, which I've used before, and the little one. I thought that would be a good size for just a tiny little ghost. If you want a bigger ghost, obviously use a bigger loom. But that's what we're going to start out with our glow-in-the-dark yarn to make our glow-in-the-dark ghost. Another quick thing, yes, I used the Blacklight to show you guys it lit up when I'm working with it, but if you have it like charged, you could walk into like a darker room and it will do a slight glow. It just may not last that long. I'm unsure, like if I would have it in the sunlight, we'll say all day long, how long it would glow in the dark. So that's something you can kind of play around with. Or if you were to hang these around your house or something, then yeah, maybe giving kids flashlights to kind of see if they could see it or something could be kind of cool. But I just wanted to say that before I forgot, that it will glow a little bit without the black light. But it's cool to have it to kind of show a case more. So also another thing real quick is I just looked, and these are 50-gram weight of the yarn. And the other thing I noticed too is it's a little soft, but it's not like a super soft yarn like you might get used to using, excuse me. But it's not too bad to the touch. It's just not like as soft as some of the other yarns. And again, this is saying it's a weight of 50 grams, I believe. It doesn't have a color number or anything on it. Again, I believe she's got these off of Amazon for me for a gift, so I'm a little unsure of the price. I think they're maybe around $8, and I don't know if it's $8 per the package or if it's $8 per skein. So keep that in mind if you're looking up glow-in-the-dark yarn, that you may get smaller than what you realize. So I don't know how many yards this is. That's why I figured making little ghosts would be a better alternative than trying to make a big ghost, because that way I'm pretty sure I'll have enough to make, you know, a ghost or 2 or 3 possibly out of this yarn. So let's get into it. Okay, reminder, the loom we're using has 24 pegs and it is a 3/8 gauge. It says on the bottom, if you can see that there. So what we're going to do is, because this yarn is kind of thin, is we're going to end up using the U-knit more for this project. I know a lot of times I do the Ewrap, but we're going to use U-knit because I want it to be a tighter stitch. So I've got my little slip knot. I'm going to show how to make it just for those that are new. This is how I do my slip knot. The back. But you can do a slip knot whatever way you want. And you can hide the tail in later or figure that out when you're done. It's usually a good way to hide it. I'm going to put on the first peg. And because this has 24 pegs and I want there to be little nubbins, when you think of the nubbins, the way I can see it is you're looking at it almost like a ghost from Pac-Man. So you have your curved top and then you'll have your nubbins. So we can have our cute little ghost. That's kind of my inspiration, is Pac-Man. So just to, I know it's a crazy drawing to do that, but I just wanted to show you guys this is what I'm kind of leaning towards. So we're working on what I call the little nubbins. And no, they're not going to look like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide this loom, which has 24 pegs. We're going to do 4 pegs at a time. So we're going to do 4 pegs, cut the yarn, go to the next 4 pegs, restart over, and work our way around so we can have these little nubbins at the bottom. So I got my slip knot, so I got 1 peg, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and you go down. Now I'm going to do 1 quick row of Ewrap first, just because it helps lock it in for the cast on row. So do your cast on row first in the Ewrap, and then we're going to switch over to the U-knit. Now with the unit, remember, you also want to keep track of your tightness, okay? And I think I'm going to move my slip knot up. It kind of, okay, so now we're going to do the unit. The unit is taking the yarn and kind of making like a U-shaped. I move my hands, you can see like it's a U shape. Do not hold it really tight. It will make it a pain in the butt to knit over later on. So you want to still keep it a U, which will give you that tighter knit, but you want to have a little bit of slack on it to make it easier to knit the bottom over the top later on. So then you're going to take it again. Okay, and we're going to just do the U knit to the back. Again, it's going to look like that. And we're just going to knit it over. Again, trying not to keep it too tight. And the last one. Now if you wanted to do like a knit and purl, because I'll kind of lay flatter, you can. I'm okay if this curls a little bit, because again, it's a ghost. If you don't want it to curl, you could do the purl, or the garter stitch here to have it lay a little flatter, but I was thinking it's a ghost, it doesn't matter. So now we're going back again. We did one row, so I'm going to click my little stitch marker I'm using over here to keep track for you guys, and then we're doing the unit again. Okay, now remember, we tried to keep it light or loose so that we can knit over again. Okay, and then we go again, oops, sorry. You go again with the unit. It's a little more awkward for me to work this way because I am right-handed to hold the yarn, so you will notice that when you're doing back and forth. You might find one way, is easier to do than the other. And also keep in mind, with me doing this on camera, my angle is different. Okay, and so we're going to go back again. Doing the unit to get a tighter little stitch. Again, watching how tight I do it. Again, I'm just keeping it loose on this finger behind me as much as I can so that I can knit over. So what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to go off camera and work a few more rows this way so it's a little easier for me to work until we get a little bit more of a nubbin coming down through, and then I'll show you what we're going to do next. Okay, once you did your 8 rows, cut the yarn and leave yourself a little tail. This tail we will use later on. Just drop it and leave it in there. Now you're going to work the next 4 pegs the same way you did these 4 pegs. If you need to, grab stitch markers and place them down so you don't get confused on what you're working. You do not connect this peg and that peg yet. Only work on these 4 pegs right here. And again, this is the process we're going to do all the way around the loom. All the way around the loom, so we end up with 6 little hanging down things. As you can see, we got our first one done here. It's not going to hang down too far. So again, work this process of casting on the next 4 pegs, only work in that section, do 8 rows, cut yourself your tail, drop it, go to the next 4, do the same thing, and the next 4, all that until you get back to the starting peg, and then we'll go on to the next process. Okay, when you're all done with all of them, it should sort of look like this. And just a little disclaimer, if you end up doing slightly more than 8 rows, that's fine. Again, if you might have did, I think sometimes I accidentally did 9. I think I ended up doing 9 more than 8 when I went around because of where I wanted to drop the yarn. So I might have miscalculated. But again, it's not going to matter. 8 to 9 rows, you can do more or less. You can choose to have some of them be shorter if you don't want them all to be the same length. You could say, okay, I'm going to do 3 of them as 10 or 12, and then the other ones are 8 or 9. So like, you can play around with how you want the little nubbins to be, if you want them all the same size or if you want them different. Now when we're all done, we've got a mess. I know, it looks like a mess. We're going to find our start, and now we need to kind of like go around and connect all these. So what we're going to do first, just because I feel like it'll be easier, is we're going to go the first one that we dropped, right? And we're going to pick up that yarn that we dropped, and we're just going to bring it over and connect it onto the next peg. So we're going to bridge that gap. And I'm just going to like Ewrap it here, even though I should do the unit, just because I want to make it a little easier. I'm going to go take this off camera real quick behind the camera. I'm just moving it over because it's a little different angle. I need to be at the right angle. So okay, so I just knitted that over so that connects this one section to that. And just drop it down. If you want to, if your tail's long enough and you want to take like one more and go to the next one and do the same thing, just to kind of lock the rows together, go ahead and drop it down. Go to the next section, grab the yarn again that we had dropped earlier, and I'm just doing Ewrap. So there will be a little gap between when we do it because of doing Ewrap here when we did unit. It should be fine, it's just a little ghost. And again, just Ewrap knit those two to connect. Like I said, I'm just using the drop down yarn. And if you have enough of a tail and you want to do the next peg over, that's fine. This is just locking, getting those rows together without having to add extra yarn right now. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go off camera and finish doing that where I'm connecting the last piece of yarn to the next 1 or 2 pegs depending on how much of a straggler I have, and then we'll come back and start working on the body of the ghost. Okay, so that's all I did is I went around connecting the last piece of straggler to the next peg, and I did all the way around until I got back to the beginning, so I connected the last peg to there, or last yarn stragglers. We have all these stragglers. I know it looks intimidating. When we're all done, we'll worry about hiding any ones that we need to and trimming any that we need to. I only connected about the first or second peg because that's about all the tail I had. If you had a longer tail, again, you could do a little more, which might change up obviously the amount of rows in some sections, but again, it's just a ghost. So we're not aiming for it to be this perfect little thing. We're aiming for this to be a fun project where you can kind of manipulate things a little different. So now we need to connect all this around, and that is just for the rest, for the ghost, for the rest of the body of the ghost, we're just going to do the unit. Again, keeping an eye on how tight your yarn is. Be very careful that you don't hold the yarn too tight because it's going to make it really hard to knit over the next row. So I'm really going to be, I'm just dropping this on the first row. I don't, my new slip knot is on there. And now I'm just going to do, aside from when I cast it on, I'm just going to unit it all the way around. Oh, you little straggler. Where'd that go? What did I lose? Oh, I lost my little loopy loop. Hang on. Okay, I lost the loop that was on there originally. So we're just going to go down here. I found it. Get your butt back on there. Because be careful how far you pull over, because again, these are just the stragglers that we put in there, so you really want to be careful that you don't pull too tight so you pop it off like it just did. So again, putting my slip knot back on top, okay, that I just did to connect the rows. Just want to tighten it a little bit. Okay. Now I'm just going to, do the just the knit over right here just to join it. Okay. Now I'm going to do the flatten of this little straggler. He's going on this side. Okay. Now I'm going to do the unit all the way around. Okay, and this will, just make sure you're grabbing the right one, not all the stragglers we have in here. Again, like I said, we will worry about those later, so just make sure all those other stragglers are out of your way. And again, you're just going to unit until we get the body length that we want. Watching your tension as you go, and being careful when you do it, because if you make your tension tight, you will not be able to knit over the row after this, and that's one thing I get worried about all the time. So keeping all those extra stragglers out of your way, keeping your tension relatively loose. Like again, as you can see, I'm not really holding it super tight. I'm giving it a little slack just to make it easier on myself. And again, with me, I'm not going to be knitting off camera that much. I'm going to be, what did I do? I lost another one. What the heck? Keep losing my loops. So again, make sure when you do your stragglers, you just be careful that you're not accidentally taking a loop off. You just find the loop, find my little straggler, move it back to the back. So go one peg at a time until we do the first row. Once we get the first row done, we'll be fine. And it's just because I probably shouldn't have knitted over too many with the straggle yarn, so it kind of pulled it off. So I just got to watch what I'm doing. Keep that other straggle long out of my way. Go to the next one. Again, I'm keeping it very loose, not too loose, but loose enough that it shouldn't affect me the next time I go around. And as you work down, all these stragglers will kind of work down. And again, we will hide them when we're all done. And we're just going around. And we're just connecting everything. And being very careful about the stragglers that we use to lock it in place. Oops, wrong way. Doing a unit, not an Ewrap. Oh, I did it again, my goodness. But see, it's just because of those stragglers I did. So I just need to go back and carefully find the loop I had before and put it back on. It's just because I probably should have only wrapped one peg when I was connecting the two, and I wrapped two, so my straggler was a little shorter. So just have patience, don't get mad, just reach down like I just did and just grab the loop that came off. Once we do this row, we'll be fine. So again, I'm being very careful to make sure that there was a loop. This straggler goes behind. Okay, and I'm just working my way around. And again, just have patience when you're connecting the two. If you lose a loop, just be careful. Just look like I did and find where that loop was and gently put it back on the peg. You know, things like to be stubborn the first time here. Should almost see it. That's another one that I probably shouldn't have wrapped stragglers, so I just gotta go back here, grab my previous loop, put it on, move this straggler out of the way. Because I've done stuff like this before with stragglers and it never fought me this much, so keep that in mind. It's just those stragglers I should have only wrapped the next one peg and not the two, because that working yarn became shorter. Okay. Any stragglers, you can just kind of pull. Okay, and you'll work them later. Damn it. I'm almost back to the beginning. I was like, how many more do I have to do here? Okay, so like I said, you might lose loops, just grab the loop back up. It's only really going to happen to the parts that you're connecting. So that's why I'm being a little more careful when I hit the new batch of 4s, just in case. See, like this is really loose, means that I probably had a straggler doing the same thing, so I just need to find my straggler yarn and give it a little tug. See, it's right there. So I just need to grab my straggler yarn, carefully knit it over, get over to the next one to help lock it in place. Okay, so that's all we're doing, is kind of working our way around. Any stragglers you need, you can just kind of give them a little pull. And when you go back around again, they'll be locked in this time because you got the new yarn kind of getting locked in. That's just working the old. If you don't want to connect like I did and that's that thing ahead of time, you can just go ahead and do this row and connect them with this yarn. I was just trying to hide some of my stragglers as I was working. Okay, another one that kind of came off, so we're going to go back. See, I'm just going back in. I'm looking for my loop, my previous loop right there. You can see it, and I'm just going to bring it back up. Again, and then just taking the straggler and just pushing it back to the back. So like I said, that's all the reason it's doing it, and just as long as you're working one peg at a time and remain calm, you'll be able to put that loop right back on there. And here we are, getting back to our beginning. So again, I made a couple oopsies, you know, with the previous part, but I remained calm and I fixed my oopsies. So that's all that matters. All these little stragglers, we hit some in, some fought us, but we just put the loop back on and we worked our way around. And now all we're going to do for the body of this ghost is keep working the U-knit for this many rows until we're ready to cast this off. And again, we'll worry about all these stragglers after we get the ghost off the loom. So again, we're going to just do U-knit till we hit the amount of rows I just said, and then we'll be ready to take this off. Okay, I did 32 rows with my row counter to get our little ghost this length. And if you can see, comparing it to my hand, again, I'm trying to make it kind of a small ghost. Now, because I did the U-knit, which I hated, I know you probably struggled just like I did to do it because the U-knit is a tighter stitch, but I actually am going to switch over to Ewrap stitch now, the Ewrap knit, because I want to loosen up these stitches for when I actually take it off the loom. So again, if you're new to the channel and you don't know about Ewrap, we're just taking the Ewrap and we're just wrapping the pegs and then knitting over. So hopefully, I'm going to do this off camera. I'm just going to take the bottom over the top, but because these stitches are a little tight, I have to do this off camera in order to make sure I don't lose any of these loops. So again, we're just going to go ahead and Ewrap knit for this many rows so that we can take this off a little easier. Okay, I just did 3 rows of Ewrap knit. I just wrapped a few pegs at a time, knitted over, kind of worked my way around that way instead of wrapping the whole peg or whole loom at once. But you can kind of already see if you look in, for those that are kind of new to the whole U-knit and Ewrap difference. Here you can see our Ewrap is really a tight knit. It's very tight. You can't really see through it too much. And then up here, as you can see, you can kind of see when I did the first 3 or the 3 rows I just did, it's very loose compared to our knit stitches down here. That's why I wanted to do it, just to help us a little bit when we go to bind this off. So now what we got to do is do just the gather bind off and keep it, like I said, really simple. If you wanted to do some decreasing, you could try. I'm not worrying about that right now. I just wanted to do the gather bind off because I feel like that would be the easiest for this simple thing. And again, we got all our little stragglers here. I'll be taking care of those in a little bit. So when we want to do the gather bind off, we have our string here. So we're going to cut, cut a good tail. I always cut almost like 12 inches off just because I want to have enough. And then I'm going to cut another string. And again, I'm doing anywhere from 2 to 3 feet, which I won't need for this bigger loom, but I'd rather have it too much than not enough. We can always trim later. So I'm giving myself a lot of yarn to work with. And then keeping an eye on this, you don't want this to get lost. Leave this one on, that's on there off to the side. Take your new one, and you're just going to kind of work it through each loop. So we're going to go first to the last loop we had, and we're going to bring that yarn through. This is where an anchor peg would really be helpful, but I don't have one on this peg. So I got to hold that with my thumb, and then I got to work the whole yarn through. Actually, I did the wrong spot. Let me go over one. Well, it wouldn't have probably mattered, but I'm going to go over it because I forgot this goes on that side. Okay, I'm going to start with the first peg where my silver mark is, and I'm going to hold the yarn I want to use. This one, again, we're keeping this off to the side, trying not to accidentally pull it through, and we're just going to hold this one here. Leave yourself a little tail here if you need to, and then work it through. There's probably other ways that you might want to try this at, but this is just the way that I kind of be more comfortable doing. And we're just going to kind of work it through, again, holding this one. As you can see, I'm holding this one in my hand so it doesn't go all the way through, and then you're just pulling that yarn through. Okay, and then you're going to go again, pull it through, again, pull it through. Okay, and again, you want yourself a long enough tail. You realize you have a lot of slack here. You just want to leave a little bit of a tail here, and we should have enough, because if I were to wrap this around, you can see that's how much I have. I have enough that it wraps around quite a bit, so we'll definitely have enough. Keep yourself your tail here so nothing happens to it. At this point, if you want to hold both of them, you can. And I'm going to go through one more. I'm going to pull it all the way through. And at this point, you can also start taking the loops off the pegs if you want. So any one that you've already looped through, you can go ahead and take it off the loom. Again, careful that you don't accidentally pull the whole thing off. Okay, I'm going to leave that one on there while I do the next few. Try to be careful that I don't accidentally fray the yarn, because I've done that. And then I can just go back and take a few of them off. And just work your way around the loom. Again, keeping an eye on these back tails to make sure you don't accidentally pull anything through. Remember, we got our 2 tails there. This is the one that went to the original one. This is the one we're working right now. Good, and once I get a few off, I just gently go back and take them off. For the next section here. But doing that Ewrap knit really does help loosen up these, otherwise I think it would be a little tougher to do. So I'm glad that I switched over to that Ewrap knit, because this is going to be the very tippy top of the ghost's head, so you're not fully going to see it too much depending on how you display this. Again, we've still got our 2 tails over here. I'm keeping an eye on those, making sure I don't lose any of those. That's why. So we're almost back to the beginning. Okay, we're almost past the beginning, so just be really careful as we get to our last pegs. Okay, we got our last peg here. Okay, take these off gently because we don't want to accidentally pull anything too far and lose it. And drop it through. Okay, and now typically people take this and they fold it inside out when you do the gather, because I'm going to have this be the outside. You can also choose if you want this to be the outside, which I haven't really decided fully what I want for it, but I'm just going to carefully start pulling. As you can see, as you start pulling on one, it starts closing up. And you start pulling on the other one gently. You're basically just wanting to close this off, the hole, as much as you can. And then this is where you need to decide what side is going to be your outside. Are you going to do your knit as your outside, or are you going to do like inside out it and have this be your ghost side? So let's take a look at it there so we can see which side is going to be our ghost side. Is it going to be this side, which is pretty much all pearls because of it, or the knit? I kind of like the knit, so I'm just going to work it closed on this side so I can hide it in the back. I like the knit side. I like the little more rows of it. So I'm going to bring my working yarns this way so I can close it off this side, and then I'll turn it back around. So my knit side will be the side that'll be the ghost shown. But if you like this way too, you can reverse it into this side if you want. But since I know I want the other side to be the side that shows the ghost, I'm gonna continue closing this off. So I find my string here. Where's my magic string? Oh, there it is, probably. There we go. As you can see, it closes that all off. And now I need a crochet hook. Okay, so I got a this size I think it should work. And usually what I do is, again, trying to keep it simple, because I have some fishing wire that we're going to use to hang this with, so we're not hanging it by the glowing yarn, so that it kind of looks a little more translucent. So I go to the opposite side, roughly where my yarn is, like the tails are. Okay, and then I kind of reach in and I grab one of these loops, or one of these yarns, and pull it through. And then I can tie the string, tie the yarn, and see, that helps close it off more. And you could do a couple knots. And then you could check it, and if it doesn't feel like it's tight enough, sometimes I kind of work my way a couple times in it. Like I might say, okay, let me go one more time and take the yarn maybe over here and grab the other ones I didn't grab last time and bring them through. And then again, tie them to the other one. Once you feel it's tight enough, then just trim it. Doesn't matter how much you leave, it's going to be on the inside of the ghost anyway. And now we'll turn it back around just so you can see. Get over there. See? And this is our cute little ghost. We still got to put the eyes on it if you want eyes. And we have all these stragglers to deal with. This is where you can decide, do you want the stragglers? Do you want to hide them in? So if you're just going to hide them in, look for all our extra yarn. You see how this was one from when we connected them? You can kind of like, if you want, even just tie it to one of the straggles, like gently. Because again, it's going to be on the inside, so don't make yourself any more work than you have to. So like if it's on the inside, then I can be like, okay, take my crochet hook, come over into a stitch, as much as I can and kind of bring some of that extra yarn through, because I'm hiding it on the inside of the project. So I'm just finding some stitches, or going into a stitch, grabbing the tail of the working yarn and kind of pulling it through a little bit, pulling it through, and then once it's through enough, you can take your scissors. Maybe I need sharper scissors. Okay, and that's kind of what you're going to do. You kind of work, and if you see that this is connected to the other one, just kind of give it a little tug. Kind of connect the two with a gentle knot. You're not going to go really tight, unless you want to. Just do a double knot. Secure it a little bit, and then take your crochet hook and just kind of work in a stitch. You can even grab both of them if you want, if they'll go through, but I'm just going to do one at a time. It looks like that will work easier. Pull that through, go back in, grab the other one, pull that through. Don't fight me now. Okay, so once you get them kind of hidden into the project, like I said, then you can kind of come up a little higher, find the stitch. And remember, no ghosts have to be perfect, so it's okay if they're not like perfectly hidden in or something like that. It might give the ghost character a little bit. Okay, and then once you got it in enough that you want, and if it shows on the other side, so see those two are already kind of done. So I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to work the rest. I'm just going to kind of be tugging at the one that connected, just connect those two together and then hide them in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to the rest of them, and then I'll come back for the next part. So after taking care of all our little nubbins kind of thing and hiding them in, as you can see, I was using pony beads to place it. So now we have our nubbins all kind of hid inside. Okay, and now we're going to glue the eyes on. And because I'm worried that the craft glue I'm using, which is this craft glue I've used a lot, that I do like, I'm going to take a little piece of paper and I'm going to tuck it underneath, so that way if any glue, when I glue these pony beads on, which are just small black pony beads, my teenager thought they looked cute, so we're going to go with that. So we're going to take this piece of paper and we're just going to tuck it in, because I don't want the glue, and I'm going to make it a little narrower, I think. We're going to tuck this in so that if the glue goes through, it won't glue onto the other side, and then we can either pull this out later, or if it stays in there, it's not going to hurt anything. So I'm just moving it up. As you can see, I just tucked it in to whereabouts we're going to be gluing the face, so that if this glue again goes through, it won't affect the other side. And I've got 3 pegs because my kid and I were trying to decide if I liked the 2 for the eyes, not that close together, but 2 for the eyes, and then the 1 for the mouth. So that's what we're going to go with. And I also found, my line, I think it's fishing reel line, so that we can put this up at the top to hang it with, and that way you won't even really see it, and that would be kind of cool. So you could either put that on first, just going for the tippy top, but I decided I would glue first. Well, let me see. You know what, let's put the fishing wire on first, because that way the glue can set overnight before I finalize it. So we want to just basically take our wire, and you decide how long. Okay, where is the beginning? Gotta find the beginning. I found the beginning. I had to go off camera to find the beginning. And you can see it's really thin. I'm trying to think if it says 12 pound, 500 yards. I mean, it really doesn't really matter. You could, if you wanted, use any of your scrap thing to hang it, but it just matters whether you want this to show up when it's glowing in the dark, or if you don't want, this shouldn't show too much in the dark, because if I were to shut the light off right now, it wouldn't be too bad. So it should be good to use the fishing wire as an alternative. And you don't really need that much. It really depends on how far down you want to hang this guy. And then we're just going to go into the top with the tippy top as much as we can, and then take the fishing wire, which I know is hard to see, and just kind of bring it through. Come here, you little bugger. Okay. Probably do this easier without a crochet hook. Seriously? This stuff is, it's going to be a cool effect, but boy does it want to fight me just going in. It's like threading a needle, basically. Okay, get in there. Go through. Haha. And again, you're going to decide how long you want it to be, because again, it's right here. It depends on how far you want it to hang, and I'll show it hanging later, so I'm just kind of eyeballing how far I would like it to hang from something. If you don't want to do this step right now, don't worry about it. You can always choose later on when it gets closer to wherever you're going to put it to decide how much you would like it to hang. So I'm just tying a double knot in this really quick, just to like give it something to hang on to. Okay, and then I got my paper in there still, so we're going to use this side, I think, to put the like I said, I didn't do this too fancy. You can always cut this and do something different. Like I said, that's just an idea. And I'm going to put the eyes on. So what I have, again, is the craft glue. And what I like about this craft glue, if I can talk right, is it does premium all-purposes adhesive, and it actually ultra strong, dries clear, non-toxic. So I mean, this I've used on a lot of different products, and that's why I like that you can put a big glob and you won't feel bad if like it if it kind of like it dries clear. So you can just plop it, do that. There's one little eyeball. Okay, and then I want to make sure I put the hopefully kind of in the same spot. Okay, I'm gonna stand up here so I can see the angle a little better. Okay. So then we got our next eye. It's kind of lined up pretty good. And if you don't feel, if you don't feel like you have enough glue, because again, it's going to dry clear, just put a little bit extra. Okay. And we just want to make sure that they're kind of in the same spot. Okay. And then just leave it alone so it can dry. And then we need our last little spot, which is for our mouth. And again, if this doesn't dry well, where like I need to put more glue on, I can go ahead. But that's all I'm going to do is put the glue on and now let it dry. And if it goes through on the paper, I don't think it did, I'm just poofing it up a little bit. We're going to let this dry, and we should have our cute little ghost, and we'll do one final little check on it when the beads dry. Here we go. The eyes are already on it. Now they're pretty sturdy, but obviously this isn't geared towards a little kid playing with it, because if a kid tried to, they probably could try to pull it off, even though it's been pretty sturdy. Like I'm going like this and it's not flicking off. I wouldn't advise this being something that you let kids play with. I would have it be just mainly a decor item, but I thought this was really cute, and with these little nubbins, I call them. And if you want to, you could almost maybe put little fringe maybe at the bottom of these and fray the yarn a little bit more and make it a little spookier. But I wanted to do a simple, cute little ghost, and you just gotta kind of shape it, and then he looks kind of cute. Now let's see if I can show you this glowing. I just have it hanging up on a thumbnail or thumbtack on my board here. So let's see if I can get you to see this glowing. Okay. See? This is a black light that I'm using on it to help activate it. Usually a regular light will help. And we just kind of shine it on it and we take it away. And we have a little glowing ghost. I really hope you guys like this video, and please make sure to share in any Looming group that you're in so that others can make these cute little ghosts for Halloween or any time of the year if you're into spooky stuff.